Hello and welcome to another live coding session for the devlog of Runes of Aereal. And we're going to continue with the fifth part in the series for creating the crafting interface. So let's see what happened in the last few sessions. We can click a book here, a spell book, and the ingredients appear here. And what is going to be crafted appears here. So that's what happens. So we need one more thing to really finish this up, and that's changing this title here above and the description to match the title and the description of the spellbook. So let's finish that up first. To do that, we can move to the on start of layout, where we already have something very similar, where we set the spellbook name to hard-coded, select the spellbook and hard-coded empty string for the spellbook description. We can just copy that and paste that here. We can drag it right under the mouse selection here. And what we can do is say spellbooks.spellbook name here, and for this we can set it to spellbooks.spellbook description. So let's see what it looks like. That's it. So we see that this is a little bit too large to fit the entire description. Let's just make this a little bit larger and the font to like 18 or something. I'm making this a little bit larger to encompass the entire string. Let's see. That's great. That's what I want. So for the next part, we're going to do something about the fact that we need to be dragging this around. We need to be able to drop this right here. So we're going to start by adding the drag drop behavior to this crafting items. Let's see if that is already there. So we're going to queue here, and from the spellbooks, no, we don't spellbooks, we crafting. And crafting, does it have a behavior? No, we want to have a drag and drop behavior. That's it. So let's go. Let's try that if we can do that. Yes, we can do that, but the disadvantage will be we'll be able to do that with this too. So we need to be disabling that. We're going to disable the drag drop behavior for these previews here in these boxes. So that's pretty easy. We can go to the crafting station, and just after creating those crafting items, setting their opacity and their location, we can just go to crafting and set enabled for drag drop to disabled. Let's copy that over here and add over here. And let's see what that does. So that doesn't do anything. On the other hand, scrolls have a default behavior already for drag and drop. So we didn't disable that here for the scroll, so that inadvertently is also scrollable, also draggable. So we're going to make that undraggable too by setting the drag drop disabled for these scrolls as well. So let's see what it looks like. And it's unscrollable. Everything here is unscrollable, but this is scrollable. Alright? Okay, so for the next part, we're going to drag this around, and this means that if this this item is over this box and the user lets go, it should snap into place. That's what's supposed to happen. But in order to do that, we are going to have to check if this item which is in here actually matches the item we're dragging. Because otherwise we could drop a caterpillar in this place and that would have no effect whatsoever. So we need to be dragging only items with the same object type in the correct boxes. So that's what we're going to do now. Let's first do a drag drop interface and make it drop into the correct box. So here in the interaction, we're going to add an event where we say crafting on drag drop on drop. Great. When we're dropping something. And then we say pick overlapping points. We want to pick the crafting ingredient box, but crafting ingredient box over mouse.x and mouse.y. Let's try that. And then we say crafting. We want to tween that into place, and it's got no tween behavior. Let's first try just putting it there. Crafting set position to crafting ingredient box.x and crafting ingredient box.y. See what that does. Mushroom. Okay, that works. That works. Actually, that's good to snap it there. Doesn't really need to tween, does it? So that's enough for now. But now it's not really checking if it's the same item, really. So that's what's going to happen next. So what we're going to do is actually, when selecting a spell box, we need to indicate to this crafting ingredient box what it is containing at that moment, so we can compare it to the thing we are dragging towards it. So here we are going to check if the thing is what is in this crafting ingredient box equals the thing we are dragging or dropping right now, then only then we need to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this crafting ingredient box, and we're going to add an instance variable. I'm going to name it content, and it is a string. So whenever we click here, we're going to pick this crafting ingredient box, and we're going to say that the crafting ingredient box set value, the content, equals the crafting dot object type name. Okay, that way we indicate to the crafting ingredient box what exactly is in there right now. So now on drag drop we can check if that is the same thing. So we're going to add a sub event, and we're going to compare two values, being the crafting ingredient box.content equals crafting.object type name, and only if that's the same we can do that. So let's see if that works. That works, but that doesn't work because it's not the object type name. that doesn't work because it's not overlapping. Now it's overlapping, so that works. So that's ideal. We've set this here. We can check something else, like this one. And now the caterpillar should not jump here, but it should jump there. Ideal. That's exactly what we want. So it would be even better if we are hovering over an item and that you would somehow be indicated that it is not correct. It is becoming red, for example. We're dropping here, and while we're dragging over this, we can see, okay, it's not good, it's red. We can't drop that here. And if you move away from it, then again, it becomes transparent again. That's what I want to do here. But making this red, I want to make this entire box red. But making this red is something which will make the entire rectangular box red, and that's not what we want. The exterior rectangle here should remain this brownish thing, but the content should have a red box. So what we're going to do, actually, as I'm going to be adding this to the same layer as this content here. So we're going to sit in content, we're going to add insert an object type. And it's going to be a sprite, and we're going to call it crafting validation overlay. Name crafting validation overlay, and we're making it a nice reddish color, something like that. We fill it like that. And it's pretty big, we don't need it to be that big, so let's do like 80 by 80 or something. Great. And then what we can do is we're going to fill it here, like that. And we're making it transparent, like transparent opacity, like 20 or something. Great, but that's too little. You can hardly see it, like 50. Great, transparency 50, and now we're going to like fill it up completely, like that, like that. Okay, just a little bit more to the right and up. Okay, I'm satisfied. So with this object here, crafting overlay, we're going to need as well here this ID and this content, because we're going to be checking the ID here once we're overlaying this, and again we're going to check the content once we're overlaying this, so we can see, we can make it red, we can make it opacity 50 or 0. That's what we're going to do. So as well here for this instance variables, we're creating ID, which is a string, and content, which is a string as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to set this ID to 1 and no content, obviously, and we're going to do the same here. We're going to do the same here, but this is ID number 3 and this is ID number 2. Great. So what we're going to do on the start of the layout, well, let's see what it looks like. It looks pretty bad now because it's visible, and that's not what we want. So at the start of the layout, first thing what we're going to do is we're going to pick all the crafting validation overlays, and we set the opacity to 0. So that means that initially they are invisible. And what we're now going to do is we're going to do something like, if we crafting, if you are dragging at the moment, only if we're dragging, and we are mouse is over an object being the crafting validation overlay, then we are going to check if the content is equal to the crafting that's being dragged. But that's not going to work right now, of course, because we haven't set the content of the crafting overlay yet. So we're going to have to do that as well here on mouse click of the spellbook. And what we're going to do is, next to picking the correct ingredient box here, we're also going to pick by evaluate the crafting validation overlay, and we're going to say the crafting validation overlay.id equals 1 here as well. So same counts here for 2, and this counts for 3. Great. And also what we're going to do is we say crafting validation overlay set value content equal to spellbooks dot object name. That's it. That's it. Okay, so now we've indicated to the validation overlay here what content it should have, and when we're dragging and the cursor is over a validation overlay, then we're going to check compare two values. Is the crafting.objectTypeName equals to the crafting validation overlay.content? Then we crafting validation overview set opacity to 0. Else we set the opacity to 50. And we have to have a copy of this one, because when we're not over a crafting overlay, we also need to set it to 0. So let's see what happens. So we're not dragging, so obviously it's not doing anything. Only now we've set the content of both the ingredient box and the validation overlay, so we can start comparing it. So since we're not dragging anything, it never becomes red. So now we start dragging something, and we drag over this, and it doesn't work. Actually, I would have expected this would not turn red, and this would turn red. So as it turns out, we're actually always turning red, which is not the idea. So let's see what happens. We go here. So what's wrong is what we're doing here is we're setting the content to the spellbooks.objectTypeName, which is wrong. It should be crafting.objectTypeName just after we created the crafting, actually. So this should go here, and this should go here. So at this time we filled the overlay here with the crafting item here, and this works and this doesn't work. That's great. That's exactly what we want. So that's it for this part, this fifth part of the crafting interface. So I hope you liked it. Please like and subscribe as always, and if you want the source code for this project, please make sure to support me on Patreon.